music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our daily gun show. We come to you live every day at 7 p.m. Eastern, that's 4 Pacific, for about an hour or 90 minutes every day. We have 3 gun-related topics, different topics throughout the week. We run it live on YouTube. We're simulcasting it over at gunchannels.com. We're watching the live comments that come in from people watching us live on Gun Channels and over at YouTube. When it's all over, we'll take the audio and turn it into a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. We encourage everybody that's listening to the show now or in the future to leave us some feedback on whatever platform you're listening on. It lets us know where you are. It also helps get the show recommended to more viewers, so we do appreciate that favor. Let's see, we've got a bunch of guests, or a bunch of hosts. 4 of us are here today. It's kind of weird on the screen for you there. We got Dano jumping in from Illinois twice. Thanks for joining.
Glad to be here.
Right on. Then we got Z jumping in from the island of Maui.
Wolverines!
And then we got Bob jumping in from sitting right next to me here.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
So he's in Arizona, and I'm also in Arizona right now. So Smeggy, I guess, he told me 800,000 homes have no power where he's at. So I didn't even hear about that on the news or the radio or nothing. But
I did see that a tree crushed a couple of people.
Really? So
yeah.
Some
that's from storms?
incredible windstorms go through this part of the country. And of course, I'm just a little bit south of where Smeggy's at. And of course, he's a little bit to the east, but still, it's the general, what goes through my area goes generally, we had incredible windstorms.
Okay, so we'd like to talk about whatever happened overnight.
Yep. Well, we're going to be talking about our gun stuff. Topic today is Red Dawn. Training will be bullseye or shot grouping, and then we'll talk about the events. But yeah, before we get into all our daily stuff and whatnot, we usually stop to see if anything happened overnight.
Well, that little thing that Dana was talking about yesterday in the state of Illinois, I had mentioned how it was going to be coming up to vote on the Hawaii Congress. Yesterday I had mentioned that. I guess I was a day off. Actually, the Senate voted for it on Tuesday. And since our Senate, our state Senate, does not contain any other political party other than Democrats, of course, it was unanimous, which is even worse. So now it will go to the House, and this is like what I'm calling the tattletale bill, the no due process law, basically. So since also our House, it contains very few Republicans and certainly not enough to obstruct or block or stall, there is a good chance that it is actually going to be a law, much like the RAP Back program started last year. So woohoo for terrible gun laws in the state of Hawaii. If anything, you never know that Island Z Survivor may be in a different state at some point. And I don't know how soon, but it could be sooner than I think.
Do you have a House of Representatives in Hawaii in addition to the Senate?
Of course.
It still has to go through the House.
I'm sorry, is this microphone breaking up? Because I said that's exactly what it has.
Questionable, yes.
Okay, so I did just mention that, as a matter of fact. And I did mention that there are no Republicans in the Senate. And I said also then that in the actual House, that there are very few Republicans and not enough to block, and I don't even think enough to stall this bill going through, which is very unfortunate, and more than likely it is now going to go through. I no longer am looking at the positive things about the suppressors for hunting, which was like the ray of sunshine about a month ago or whatever. Now it's pretty much doom and gloom out here, in my opinion, for gun rights for the state of Hawaii. So there's that.
That's not good to hear.
You're chipmunking, Dano.
Real bad. We didn't hear any of that except that you were trying to say something. All right, let's let Dano get back on the phone, I think. Hopefully that wasn't his phone doing that.
Yeah, I'm not sure which Dano dropped out. Anything happen overnight in Arizona? Any updates on anything as far as you know?
Oh, we didn't have match chat last night. We did the ammo chat, so I did that late into the night. So
Really?
no, I wasn't paying attention to anything.
How'd that go?
I was just sorting some or inventorying some ammo. Went all right. We had Pink and a couple other guys in there that were helping. I can't think of the other people that were in there. Anyway, a couple people jumped in and we're researching some of the weird stuff out of that collection.
Nice. That's excellent. It's always good to have an extra set of eyes or an extra set of fingers on the keyboard, you know?
Yeah, I think it was pretty fun. We were researching some of the weird head stamps and stuff, figuring out what they were, and then inventorying a big, like a cigar box full of different, I think 63 different calibers in there.
Oh, no kidding.
All right, so Dano's back. What were you saying, Dano?
Can anybody hear me?
Currently.
Okay.
You were saying something, though, Dano, and we could not hear you at all.
I lost my point because the
And I was dropped out again.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep going with the technical difficulties. We'll figure them out. We always do. So let's dig into the show, right? So do we want to do it in order? Get right into the frosting, or are we going to start with the cake?
Let's start with gun stuff. Let's just do it.
So we have a gun stuff segment of the show, and I don't remember who wrote this. Somebody wrote this in an email, I think. Or else, yeah, it was an email, I think. Or else it was a comment in our strategy chat or someplace. Anyway, we came up with this topic: what if Red Dawn had actually occurred? Is this link below it have something to do with it?
I am unsure, but I can technically...
Oh, yeah. It's a link to a video from a place called Alternative...
So hidden. It was like,
Alternative History Hub. It's a YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers. And I guess they must do some sort of like, what if the man in the castle had happened? What if the Japan had invaded?
Ooh.
Or Z. So they do this as a thing. And I guess they have this 9-minute long video that talks about what if Red Dawn had happened. So I don't think any of us watched that video. It was research or anything, but interesting topic. Red Dawn, of course, movie from 1984 about the Russians and Cubans getting together and invading up through Mexico through that unsecured international land border.
And they also came across through Canada. Let's not forget that too, bro. Come on.
Canadians definitely helped out and let the slimy communists and the Cubans walk right through Canada and come on down.
There's certain unrealistic parts of the movie, certainly.
And then basically
Come on through, eh?
a band of high school kids ran for a minute and then decided not to take it anymore, and then came back and vigilanted the shit out of the commies until they eventually left. So
Guerrilla warfare. Well, now let's be honest. That was a small part of the whole picture, right? That was not the end-all, be-all of the war, obviously, right? Obviously, America at some point had marshaled their resources enough that the freedom fighters held out long enough to cause them enough problems that it allowed for the other parts that we didn't see in the movie to be either retaken or dealt with, shall I say. Just like he said in the movie, where they won't use nukes any more than we will, and it's conventional warfare. So literally that means that we would have had to expunged back across each border, you know, driven them back across into Canada and driven them back across into Mexico. If Red Dawn had actually happened. Do you think that, because they had talked about, where was it now? They nuked DC. I'm trying to remember in the movie. where it said that they had used tactical nuke strikes. And I know that they had gotten some of the stuff in the Midwest. I know that they had gotten Washington, D.C. I know that they talked about they blew up parts of China and stuff like that. Europe staying out of the war.
You know, is anybody else seeing it live anywhere? The show right now, live?
I will look.
I'm getting a 10 watching now, and live stream is starting soon.
I got a live stream is watching soon. And yes, I got a live stream is starting soon. Correct.
Oh, weird. You have to click on that live thing is starting soon, and then it starts. What's up with that? So it's new.
Oh, no kidding.
Okay, so I guess people have figured out what we didn't figure out until right now. So sorry to interrupt you there. So yeah, we were talking about them. What, they nuked Russia or nuked DC to start this whole thing?
Right. It was because they said what it was DC and then other spots too. And I it's been too long, obviously, since I've seen the movie because I'm not remembering that part of where they said where the other parts were that they did nuke. Because I guess if we're trying to legitimately dare I say, assess what if Red Dawn had happened, you know, and I was just talking about marshaling forces and stuff like that. Well, if Washington is a wasteland and some of the other missile silos, I guess, would have been bombed, so to speak. I'm just trying to think of, like, I'd like to see a map of what they thought had happened for the beginning of Red Dawn. And I don't know if there actually exists one out there, but I would definitely like to look at it because that would help me try and explain a plan, so to speak.
Remember, Red Dawn happened in 1984, so that was before internet, before cell phones, and
right.
You know, so basically, I don't know if there would have been a way to know necessarily. There would have been ham radios, and there would have been like people running around, you know, moving from one place to another and describing what was going on in the other place. But I think it'd be a lot like Jericho, the TV show, where you're just like, you got your people that you can immediately communicate with because you're in your town or whatever, you know, like, you know, inaccessible to you, but then you wouldn't know what's going on just over the hills.
No.
Unless you maybe had a radio guy and he happened to find another radio guy on the air that was over there and they had radios. But I guess in Red Dawn, they wouldn't.
Or you said had some contact with the military, like, because the colonel was the one that told them, right? And then the...
That's true. Like, they are in the...
It wasn't... Like, the dude wasn't Burl Ives, but the grandpa. I don't remember. Was that Burl Ives?
Hold on. Are you talking about the guy who owned the gun shop?
No, that was the guy who was the dad of Robert that died. No, I'm talking about the one that gave him his heirlooms, his granddaughters.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking that was that guy. So
but, okay, but he's the one that gave him the radio in the bread pan, if you remember, right? So like little stuffs like that.
He's supposed to be sort of the underground, like the boy. You know, he's the guy with some insight to the underground, I guess. Or
Yes.
at least, you know, old enough to have a resistance, but not young enough to be dumb enough to do it. He's just helping to facilitate it. And yeah, you're going to get information through those channels for darn sure.
Yeah.
And then I guess you're right. The radio would have worked, right? They would have had Radio Free America and stuff that we played at the beginning of the show.
Yep.
To get codes out there and screw with the you know, counter intel and psyops to the.
Well, because think about this too. Like when they do the whole radio thing, like we only do a part of it. There was more stuff going on, I think, in her little radio blurb than just when we do Chair Against the Wall and John has a long mustache, correct? Like I swear there was a couple more codes.
There's other blurbs, but we played that whole blurb, and that's the blurb from when you know, they're sitting around the fire. And but there are other little blurbs here and there that you get more info.
But now, how you were talking about Jericho or whatever, like, yeah, if you were stuck in your little town and you might not have travel papers to go the next 15 miles to the next town. And here's the other thing. How big or in control is the occupying force of the place that you live in? And or if we're taking, think about if you weren't in the middle of Red Dawn, what if you were near more one of the places that got blowed up and not necessarily taken over because what was it? They took over like a half and a half or a third and a third, and then like America had stopped them like on each side or whatever, right? So, depending on where you lived, it might be telephone still usage and stuff like that in areas that didn't get nucleated, that were, where America was still able to marshal their resources and stuff like that. It might not be necessarily everyday life, but think about it like maybe heavy duty World War II, Rosie the Riveter type of stuff, where people are working swing shift. You're on rations. There's, the A gas card or whatever, where you're only, allowed to fill up on Tuesday or something like that. So I can see like being that in the areas that, were away from the bombings but didn't get rolled over by the Cubans or the Russians, where they were marshaling forces. And I definitely see it being the movie portion if you were in the middle of all that, basically in occupied territory like they talk about in the movie. Like, you guys 40 miles behind enemy lines or whatever he said. Like, Powers Booth, dude, that is one of my favorite characters that he's played, is that Colonel. Whether it's a Texas accent or just the fact that he's a straight shooter in that movie.
Yeah, and like you say, bringing in that insight from the real world. So he's really our only insight that these guys are not crazy and they're not alone, but they're working, and their exploits have been talked about. Right. Like, people know about them and stuff. Yeah.
So, as we're talking about gun stuff here, what if it had actually occurred? So I want to put it to the panel like this. Okay. A good portion of the Chinese are dead. Europe is staying out of it. Parts of the United States have been nuclear irradiated through missiles. Basically, the Russians and the Cubans occupy about the middle of the country, and so we own, say, each coast and in a certain amount of ways inland from each coast. I'm going to start with you, G, and Bob. What do you feel would be happening if Red Dawn had occurred? Because I've been going on for a couple minutes here.
Well, I think, you got to look at, that's a whole lot of country in the middle. And it is a less populated area too, though. The major populations in any landmass tend to be on the coasts. And you got to remember, the Chinese were their allies at this point, as well as, I guess, the British were still hanging on, but just by their fingertips. What would be happening? I'd like to think that basically what they're showing in the movie is that there would be a resistance from the people that were in the occupied areas, but that middle part would be gathering their resources in order to push back and push the Russians and the Cubans back off the landmass.
I like to think, if we look at Red Dawn and you see in the real Red Dawn, the Russian American.
Yeah, clearly we're not talking about the Subway sandwich Red Dawn. Clearly,
talking about the little kids table. So the real Red Dawn, they have the freaking commie American friendship centers, and the re-indoctrination camps and whatnot. And I would think that would wake all these idiots who think socialism's like cool. That would wake all them up really fucking fast, I think, when their parents start dying and all the people that provide.
How many of them are going to be the mayor, though, dude? You know what I mean? How many of them are going to act like the freaking mayor?
Hillary Clinton will be the mayor, and then all those supporters of her will quickly figure out that she's as unscrupulous and devious as she is. And I think that we'd have ultimate resilience or resistance to that shit. In other words, I don't think we would be divided. I think that it would show those people who are duped right now what the real deal is, and they would either be in the first wave of, oh man, and they get killed or whatever, or else
I think it would polarize it further, G, and I want to believe that it would rally everybody. But I'm going to say right now, whether we're talking the Revolutionary War, the Imaginary War, whatever, there were always sympathizers and people that it was easier to go along with the invading force than, there were the people that supported the British Crown, the loyalists, right? I think the Vichy in France, so like.
We're not talking about that, though, I guess. I'm not saying that it would necessarily rally the troops like they're going to become hardened or something or become.
Okay.
I'm just saying that their allure, their like pie-eyed fantasy of what socialism would be like.
Oh, yeah. I think that for a good portion of the future, that would be stripped away.
Yeah, so I think that, and I don't think they're devoted to socialism as much as they just don't want to do what their parents tell them, or they don't want to do what's cool or something, or, they want to perceive that they're rebellious. But I think as soon as they get a taste of real socialism in that kind of situation, that, they quickly figure out that that's bullshit. And
or what they call fascism these days, if they had a real taste of what real fascism is, snowflakes be melting all over the place.
Right. So they'd either be the infrastructure to help the resistance or the resistance themselves, I think, because they are still going to be, anyway, I think that's what would happen. I think that we'd see lots and lots of Red Dawns, especially as the word got around that, hey, we don't have to take this shit. Oh, yeah, you're right. We don't have to take this shit.
Yeah, they're going to kill us anyway. We might as well take some of them with us is really going to be what's going to.
I don't know what movie you watched. They were trying to kill us, and we took them all out.
Oh, they were killing lots, so.
Pushed a bunch of people around. But yeah, they killed lots of people at nukes, I guess. Daniel said he's having some internet issues, so he'll try jumping back in once he's reset some stuff. So
you see how Smeggy snuck in there?
Yeah, why don't you ask that question to Smeggy? He's trying to stand there in the corner, not even.
Oh, he's next.
I didn't want to jump in because I wasn't exactly sure what we're talking about. I gather we're talking about Red Dawn and whatnot, but
we're talking about what if Red Dawn actually happened. What do you think's going on?
I think I'm grabbing my AK and going out the door. Take this country back. Should be pretty easy. And whatnot.
Well, if the movie taught us anything, you cannot live forever off of pork and beans and trying to think what the other canned stuff was that they got from Robert's dad's store.
But they grab out of the store. I have screenshots of all that somewhere. So it was like a bunch of soda, a bunch of cases of ammo, not the complete cartridges, just the empty cases, and then some food and stuff. They got that camping stuff, and then I want to say like Twinkies or something like that.
The important thing though is, do they have Mountain Dew?
No,
because then I might be okay.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. Smegs, like there's no Mountain Dew. There's no Pepsi.
Smeggy'd be like every day.
I know that might rally you.
We should go down the house.
Yeah.
So if I were you, Smegs, I'd probably grab more than just the AK.
Oh, okay. Grab a case of Mountain Dew with me too. But I don't know. I think there'd be. I think the military would have a lot like better. I don't want to say luck, but they would have better success than they did in the movie. Because it's kind of like
we're in 1984 when we're doing this. By the way, that's what we're talking about. Not now. So there's no cell phones.
Well, then
there's
in
no internet.
1984, I ain't doing shit. So okay, I hope you guys win so that eventually I can grow up and.
No, what I mean, Smeggy, is that's the time frame. You're your age now. It's just that it happens to be 1984. You just don't happen to have internet. You don't happen to have.
Right. Okay. So, anyways, I don't know. I still think our military would have kicked their butts a little bit better than they did in the movie. It seemed like they kind of wrote it off and said, "Well, we'll put the lines here, and we wish you the best of luck, guys that are stuck in the middle." But I mean, really, like you had mentioned, they just have the middle part, right? Like we still have the coast and stuff. So I think it'd be pretty easy to cut off their supply chain. Like, how are they getting stuff? They can't just fly everything in. We could just shoot down their planes when they try and like cross over before they land to send reinforcements and stuff. I guess they came up from Mexico, but we could hold that line. So kind of pinch that off and then just attack in from. I think the military would have done a better job than it did in the movie. I definitely think what happened was fairly accurate as far as the people in the towns. Like, I think there would be a lot of people that would fight back and be the whole guerrilla warfare thing. But I just think we would have kicked their ass a little bit better. Because, I mean, I don't think, don't underestimate, this country rallies together if somebody steps foot on our soil. It doesn't really happen that often. There's only been a couple of attacks even against us, and we're like, okay, you want to do that? We're going to go lay your whole country to waste.
You mean Japan?
That's one example.
Because Canada.
No offense to the U.S. military in 1984. When was Grenada, G?
After that, right?
Yeah. So I guess my point is that's when we lost the fucking SEALs and some of the other special people that were in our armed services. Our military had been, I don't want to say in a state of disarray, because I don't want to discount any of our veterans out there, because I'm not trying to do that in any way. But I'm also going to say that there were lessons that were learned in Grenada, and that is why the chain of command got to be more efficient, and resources began to flow together efficiently more as well. So since the fact that this actually takes place before that, that kind of means that, we were badass, don't get me wrong. We are just nowhere near as badass as we are now. You know what I'm kind of saying? I mean, I want to agree with Smegs in that we would take them out, but at the same time, we didn't have as many soldiers as we do now. We didn't have as much technological advances as we do. We did have more technological advances probably than the Russians or Cubans did at that time, even, of course. But like at that time, our military was not as huge, and we hadn't been fighting wars for 15 to 20 years at that time, like we are now, between Afghanistan and Iraq and stuff like that.
All right. Well, I guess I'll have to leave the history part of this discussion up to the old folks, because I have no idea what the state of our military was in 1984.
Yeah, no problem.
I still just think, look, I said what I think. I think the military would have regained the land a little bit better than they did in the movie. But I also think that the people that were there, I don't think anyone's going to lay down and be like, well, I guess we're Russian now. Okay.
Well, and, another kind of thing that we're missing about the movie is not everybody in the town did fight. Like, not a lot by any stretch of the imagination. There were a handful, 2 handfuls of people.
Yeah, and I guess I could see some people. Some people would just do that. They would just, what's the easiest way to get along, and whatever. If it's sucking up to the Russians or doing whatever, like some would, but I think, I don't know. Maybe I'm just very optimistic.
Well, no, I'm just saying,
it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. We just kick their ass and go home.
The Wolverines, there was less than 10 of them.
Yeah, and I think there'd be more than just 10 kids are the only people that would be fighting effectively. I think there would have been quite a bit more.
Well, and plus it was a surprise attack. It was an ambush, as it were, or whatever. So
yeah, they were able. Couple days, I get it.
They were able to, capture and corral and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, let's be honest, they were still rolling in with tanks and I don't want to say choppers, but paratroopers and all this and that and the other stuff and armored vehicles. So, if you got a hunting rifle and a single action revolver, you might not necessarily be so quick to take on a tank and, light machine guns. I mean, you might be, but hopefully you would be working smart as opposed to running into a hail of gunfire and dying and doing no good for anybody.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I don't think you just stand in the middle of the road and start shooting at a tank. But the guerrilla warfare type stuff, I mean, I think you could do that pretty effectively, because they're sitting there setting up camp and getting communication, and they're standing around and stuff. Like, you sneak in, take a couple shots, and take off. Just keep doing that. But anyway, so if I was there, then yeah, I would do my best to
Well,
fight
shit,
against
Smeggy,
them.
if you were there, it wouldn't have lasted 20 minutes.
That's what I'm saying. And I am pretty awesome. We all know that the snowman is the animal spirit of the Russians, so they would all just drop their guns and
be running in fear.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a Dano in the house?
Seems like
like
guerrilla warfare would be the only realistic option that would have any chance of success. Micro situation.
I agree with you on that, Dano.
As a civilian, yes, but I think that, again, I think our military would be doing bombing runs and stuff all the time and softening them up too. Like they're on our home turf, and
yeah,
yeah,
but
we
that's
might
the
not
reason
have.
that they can't always run bombing runs is because you have American civilians in some of those places where they're going to run bombing runs through. So they realize that they would be killing their own citizenry. So you have to kind of act in a different way. You can't just carpet bomb stuff and. I mean, unless you don't care about your people. If you don't care about your people, you can roll right on through and it don't even matter.
Well, look at some of the other wars. Again, not that we were necessarily involved in our own home turf, but, what did they do in World War II when Germany took over big areas? Some of the people fought, some of the people left, and then the military, the other countries came and they pushed them back.
Well, that's
so what happened to the civilians? I mean, I'm asking a legitimate question. I'm not a huge
that depends, and I'm trying to answer it. That depends on the scale of the war. Is it a world war or is it a local war? And that's the difference between Vietnam and World War II.
We got most of that. I think I got it.
Yeah, I guess I just still stick with, if you're a civilian in an invaded country, I guess what historically, what have people done? I guess some of them do just go along with it because they don't fight and other people don't. So
some run and hide, some die, some comply, and some will be the resistance. You are correct. Now, I like Angry out there. He's definitely, it would be a massive guerrilla war. Molotovs, and then he goes, but they aren't going to bomb an American town. And that's, I think, relatively accurate because they didn't. Like when the jets were bombing the tanks and stuff, it was out on the plains and stuff like that. It wasn't in a city or anything like that. Let's see.
Again, we only have a small snapshot of one town. Towns, especially the major cities.
Well, I thought they mentioned that in the movie. Like something had happened to Denver. They had talked about them rolling up through Texas and Dallas and stuff like that in the movie, if I remember correctly. And yeah, they did say in the movie how they wouldn't use nukes or anything on our own soil.
So I understand nukes, but I don't see why you can't shoot a couple missiles at them and take out their encampments and stuff.
Because their encampments were in the middle of American cities.
Okay, then you rebuild the city when it's done, as long as get the.
That's what the point is, that you're not going to blow up American cities. You're going to have to go in there and get them out physically. That's why it was so tough. That's why it was so tough. That's why the movie went over the course of a year and a half or something like that, as opposed to literally 90 days, is because it literally would take that long to physically weed out or remove from every dark little corner that those sons of bitches would be hiding in, after we actually had a little bit of initiative going and the machine started rolling through and starting to clean house. And then again, I also think that this subject could be a chat all on its own.
Yeah, I think one thing, Smeggy, you got to remember is they did nuke a lot of American military bases when they first attacked. That may be why they were able to make the advances they were, because that initial attack did take out a significant portion of the military. So they were having to pull stuff back from Europe, which is why they had the material to fight back.
As far as I can tell,
it is a pretty good strategy because they avoid the U.S. Navy by attacking the middle of the country. Because we all know then the war would be over in 5 minutes if the Navy's involved.
well, that's the thing. We're looking at, like Z said before, when we're looking at the movie, we're looking at a snapshot of the war, and we're looking at it from the perspective of the children, citizen soldiers. So we don't know how the whole war went, and to strategize battle plans, we would need to know, at least in that reality or whatever, what the war, who was winning and what the momentum was in that. We got a little bit of insight from it, I guess, from the pilot and from the town people. But in other words, if we were fully capable of pushing them out and we knew that, why would we nuke our cities, right? If we knew that it was just going to take a couple time to do it, but we had plenty of resources to do it, and we were just needed to do it, that might be a reason that they just ruled it out. But I also think it's because we don't want the remnants of nuclear waste and whatnot to have to deal with.
Oh yeah, I agree. I don't think I ever said to nuke our cities, so I think we're all in agreement on that. But
now, as far as I can tell, it's tough. I just did quick research here, but I think we had 5 special forces groups, so that means we had 15 A teams and all of the subsequent support. And even if a couple of those were deployed, they're able to get to where they need to go. So I think we would have had definitely excellent guerrilla warfare, because everybody would have been fighting for their own home, and they would have been getting taught by people whose job it is to teach them that stuff.
Well, think about how many spots there are for those 15 groups, though. You know what I'm saying? They control a large portion of the interior of the country. Like, there's a lot of towns and cities.
There are
for those 15 groups to have to try and work with.
No, that's not even a problem. They're used to taking care of the whole world, dude. Those are the 15
Come on,
groups.
man. Okay.
I'm not kidding. We had 5 groups. That's it. We only had 5. They pulled them down after Vietnam. We didn't have the status we have now, so that they were keeping the peace and or helping to keep the peace. So I think that's what their job is: counterinsurgency education, and that's what we would have needed them for. They would have been back in a moment. And the Wolverines are an example of people that didn't need that, but I think that they
would have benefited from it, though. They would have been even more effective.
They do mention it in there that they plan to send teams, but again, because resources are finite, and assuming that we had 15 teams in general, some of them might have gotten hurt, or some of them might be doing something worthwhile to in Cuba or something, let's say. But even if there was only 8 or something here, they would have been able to definitely maintain whole states. Seriously, these guys, that's their job, is to keep the insurgents bothering the brutes. So they would.
Guess what I'm saying, though, that doesn't happen immediately. That's not an instantaneous effect either, though.
We'll find out. Well, hopefully we'll never find out, but they don't need, their job isn't to wait around and figure what's going on. Their job is to make the shit happen. Anyway,
I gotcha, but I'm saying you can't necessarily educate the groups instantaneously. That's all I'm saying. It's going to take an amount of time to do this group. It's going to take an amount of time to do the next group. It's going to take an amount of time to do the next.
Fraction of the time it would take when they're going through language and cultural hurdles. When they're at their own.
I do agree with you on that. I'm not saying like it's going to take long. I'm just saying that you're literally talking about millions of people potentially, and you got 15 groups trying to do it. That's all I'm trying to say. I just think that it's gonna. It'll take as long as the movie took, so to speak. It'll take that year and a half.
But if it happens in today's time, it'd be no problem.
That's different.
Everyone, that's everyone different. Already plays Call of Duty, so we already know what to do.
Yeah.
But how geographically this country is, you certainly can't just get on the interstate and drive.
Well, that'd be another thing too, is when you think, well, if you have a good map, you could probably find all these secondary roads, and so there still would be pretty. It wouldn't be that hard to travel, in the sense that they would have pretty good patrols on the major thoroughfares and stuff, but on all the secondary roads there are. I mean, you think there's a road every mile
Well, sometimes they had them blocked off in the movie, and then if you remember the one where they took the secondary road and they were trying to get up into the mountains, they had some people, like 2 armored personnel carriers, 6 guys, and a bunch of machine guns.
Oh yeah, but if you were traveling, if you wanted to travel, you wouldn't be doing it in the daytime. That was only while they were escaping.
Right.
So I think I think it depends on the area of the country you're in. Like some areas of the country, there's, like I say, there's roads everywhere, and other areas it's going to be nothing but open plains. Well, open plains, as long as you got a compass and you move at night. And,
how many people know how to use a compass? Raise your hand.
Yeah, I do.
I'm not raising my
I
hand.
do.
Can't make me.
Did you forget how to use a compass?
I said I'm not raising my hand because I always know how to use a compass.
Oh.
Wait, I thought I
Do
said
that?
raise your
How
hand.
does
You
you
know how to
ask
use a compass. My bad.
No, I'm saying you were saying who doesn't know how to use a compass, right?
Oh,
No, I thought I was saying raise your hand. Who knows how to use a compass? But anyway, I assume that most everybody here does. And again, also,
Which
like,
which
you know,
way
we're
do
kind
I
of-
raise my hand? I need to look at a compass to know which way north is to raise my hand.
well, and also I was going to say, you know, we're also preaching to the choir here on gun channels and on the YouTube, listening to us right now and participating in the audience, because the majority of these people, they're pro freedom. They ain't gonna want to put up with a bunch of baloney that would be coming along with all of that stuff. And I got the feeling that there's a good portion of hard chargers and, you know, heartbreakers and life takers out there. Well, if it came down to defending their homes and or having to be guerrilla warfare, you know, behind every blade of grass is a rifle, right? So I got a feeling that there's a good portion of our audience that does listen to us on a daily basis at the dailygunshow@gmail.com. That on gun channels as well. That it's not like we're ready for it, so to speak. It's that we would be highly motivated. We would go from being highly motivated individuals to highly motivated units and teams. I believe.
Well, and I think we're probably more ready for it than the majority of people, or than a lot of people.
A lot of countries, you mean?
Yeah. When you just think of the amount of firearms that are in North America compared to, say, anywhere in Europe, that's an automatic advantage, or an automatic step up anyway.
Yeah, and I think that if it were like you guys were talking, you know, we were talking about if it happened then in '84 or whatever. If it happened now, I think that it would be way messier, both against us and for us. I think it would be it would be worse than anything we saw in that movie, and there would be a lot more loss of life of the civilian population, like way more, if it were to happen today.
Yeah, there'd be a lot more civilians would be grabbing the rifle and just going out the door, like as the troops were coming down.
I'm just saying, I don't know how, you know, like in a movie, it was a PG-13, it wasn't an R, and as we all know, war is R or X even.
Yep.
So
I would say mostly X.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, you know, I completely disagree with you, Z. I think it would be a non-starter because, you know, if you remember, they landed at the school. Well, we all know schools are gun-free zones, so, you know, the Russians wouldn't have been able to shoot anybody.
yeah, but we also know that laws are made for law-abiding citizens, not for criminals, because the definition of a criminal is someone that doesn't
No.
follow a law.
No, you're wrong. Those signs are magical.
Let us not forget the lessons of Mr. Teasdale, the first victim of the school.
Yes.
Because you're in a gun-free zone does not mean there are no guns.
Rat-a-tat-tat.
You guys are all nuts. Gun-free zones work. Hashtag.
Says Schmeggy the Snowman. All right.
All right, I think that at that we should probably, just for the sake of the show, keep moving. But I think Z's right. We could do a whole show on this one, and maybe we will.
That'd be cool.
All right. So that'll take us into the second segment of the show today. We're going to talk about what's better, or what's more important, I guess, bullseye or shot grouping for training. But before we do, we'd like to feature one of the members over at Gun Channels Every Day. Gun Channel is the place we built. It's a community focused on firearms. It's completely membership driven, and with that in mind, we feature a member every day. And this week, I think I just picked a bunch of people that happened to had posted on the front page. So kind of a random. Today is DB Cooper. So I'm sure we've talked about DB in the past. Good friend, been on Gun Channel since the beginning. I think he's like the number 3 person who joined Gun Channels actually, and contributes a lot. He contributes in multiple ways, from the phone, from the computer, and he's met people in real life. Meeting up with people when they go to that area of the country, and he's had a good, interesting life experience. So he brings a lot to the table. He's got his interests and he pursues them. So he's able to bring some perspective on stuff that usually adds to the conversation. So I think, definitely the kind of person we had in mind when we built Gun Channels.
And being able to talk to him about all of the classes and experiences that he's had has definitely been both entertaining and educational.
Absolutely.
Considering,
what I think.
I grew up on the streets in New York, having to make his money by breakdancing for the tourists. I think he's really accomplished a lot in his life.
You might have heard of him.
But I was going to mention,
he was the naked breakdancer.
Here's the problem, G-Wabs. If I mute Bob, I mute you. So just cuff him upside the head or something, will you?
I think we should listen to Dano. He's been trying to say something.
I think, first of all, he has that gun freedom experience in Georgia, and then he has the experience from New York City, and then he has the experience of having had types of concealed carry firearms in regards to that, and what seems to work, and how what works well, what does not quite so well, as well as some things that are just kind of thing in that regards, as well as what Z had mentioned in regards to he's taken a number of different not just well known, but also
respected,
knowledgeable courses from instructors. Great source of reference if you're looking for whether it's different types of handguns, whether you're looking for experiences of someone who lived in an oppressive state, who's looking for a nationally renowned class to take.
He's just sitting out there.
Hell of a sense of humor.
I was just going to mention that, Z. I was going to say we'd be remorse not to mention the fact that at times he can appear to be a bit of a troll, but it's normally good-spirited ribbing, not necessarily mean-spirited. But you get him on a roll, you'll be laughing all night, man.
Absolutely.
It's for your own good. When he lets go, it's for your own good.
But actually, he honestly does have kernels of wisdom wrapped up in his aggressive demeanor. So I enjoy it.
That's just from being in New Yorker.
Probably.
All right, so I guess with that, we'll get into the training segment. If we can all shut up about how great DB is, and we'll talk about whether bullseye shooting or windbreakers.
I think it's windbreakers.
I think that's what sounds like the air raid siren happened really off in the distance on the radio.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I
almost
certainly
what
heard
civil
those.
defense.
I heard those sirens all through yesterday, man.
Good luck answering this question today.
It is time for the tactical pop quiz of the day.
I heard three of those words, Dano, just so you know.
All right.
So it's time for the pop quiz. We're good.
Extra challenging today.
Why don't you read the question, Z?
I can do that for you, my friend.
The audience.
All right. Gun Channels, YouTube. Are you ready? If not ready, you better get ready. This is going to be so fast, it's going to make your head spin. All right, here we go. The infamous Thunder Ranch opened in what year? The infamous Thunder Ranch opened in what year? I don't think that's what Smeggy said, Moon Food, but it could be.
You didn't say it today.
Oh.
If I had to guess, I would say that
84 is incorrect. 86 is incorrect. 1979 is incorrect. 99 is incorrect.
I don't think I've ever said those words. Just
94 is incorrect. 85 is incorrect. Now you're just throwing numbers out there.
79, 1999, 2000, 2000. We're talking about Thunder Ranch.
83
right?
is incorrect. 2008 is incorrect. Now you also got to understand, we're looking for the answer that is in front of us. Whether the answer is correct or not, that I cannot say.
It's the website answer. That I can say.
All right, so 96, 97, 98, all incorrect. 86, incorrect. 74, incorrect. 69, incorrect.
Well, do we need to pull this question back? I don't want just people randomly guessing.
83 is incorrect and has been stated as incorrect. Now, did somebody just miswrite the answer? I think somebody ought to double check the answer.
You will buy patches from your website.
Yeah, seriously,
95
man.
is incorrect.
These aren't the droids you're looking for. My goodness.
Yes. Bing, bang, and boom. Thank you very much to Angry American. The answer that we are looking for to the question of the infamous Thunder Ranch opened in what year is, as Angry American stated, 1993. Thank you very much, Angry American. Much appreciation.
Head on over to show.com/pop quiz. You know what to do. Congratulations.
As far as I know, there is no dog whistle, Ponnery, but
no, it's your
not sure.
Your mic.
Your mic wigging out every once in a while.
Is this any better?
It stopped, so maybe.
Yeah. Okay, I know what it was.
You know what it is?
What?
The internet's not good. I swear, our show is.
No,
just good.
I was charging my mic, so I just stopped charging it, and now it won't have that snap, crackle, pop. So back to it. Angry American, who dominated yesterday, and I mean he whooped that pop quiz and technical quiz's ass yesterday, is continuing his domination of the quizzes. So that technically makes you the technical pop quiz hot shot for today. So good job, Angry American.
Oh, and the answer finally came up over on YouTube.
Yes.
Hello, Scott.
Hot shot.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was much better than last time I was in the chat. New technical hot shot of the day.
Yep.
Z is never going to live that one day down.
Nope, never.
Oh, actually, Z don't give a shit. He's like a honey badger.
You should just give it a whole week of, you know, you won.
There you go. Pop quiz, hot shot. There you go.
You get the rest of it.
You know,
So
you
we're talking
could be fired from tactical pop quiz of the day.
Man, you are more than welcome to take over duties of the hot shot anytime you're ready, bro. Anytime. It's yours.
My grandma would have said, is that a promise or a threat?
Yeah, exactly. It's all you, Home Slice.
You got it because you invented it, so it's all
go.
yours.
Do you know what this sound is? That's wiping my hands of it, my friend.
All right, so that'll take us into the training segment of the day. Bullseye or shot grouping, which is more important? So, grouping.
Oh boy, this is going to be a fist fight, I think.
Is this competition? Is this self-defense?
Training. So I think we're talking, this is the training segment, not CCW. So I'm going to assume that we're going to talk in the training realm. Which is more important? I guess, which is more important for what? So I guess you're right there. I'm going to just go ahead and say grouping because anybody can bullseye.
Really?
Sure.
Well,
Bullseye,
no,
in real life, getting all your bullets in the same hole isn't going to be effective on a, you know.
No, but a bullseye, if you want to look at it, is shooting the person in the forehead while they have a hostage, or the bullseye is shooting the person in like the T-zone or in the heart or whatever. So that's the bullseye. Bullseye doesn't necessarily mean the center of a target, like it's just the middle of the person's chest. Bullseye is you are hitting exactly where you're aiming at, in my mind.
Your heart are a group size.
All I heard was RRR, a group size. I didn't hear anything before that. So G-Web says grouping. A lot of people out in the chat say grouping. I say it's more important to have the exact shot than it is this quarter-sized grouping that might not necessarily be where you were aiming at, in my opinion. I think it's more important to do an accurate shot than, like I said, a quarter, a nickel, a dime, 50 cents.
Yeah, but with that, I mean, are you talking like you get one shot right in the bullseye, but because you're not focusing on grouping, are your other shots off the paper?
No,
I mean,
saying,
if all you care about is hitting just the one, or
well, no, because then every shot is the bullseye shot, right? So if you're aiming for in between the eyes or where, and here's the deal, gentlemen, I'm not a trained assassin or anything like this. So if I'm going to say stuff right now, I might not know if that's the spot you're supposed to be aiming for or anything like that. Okay. So like if I'm talking about, you know, just below the neck, where just above your sternum or whatever, where there's that little divot, shooting somebody in the heart, shooting somebody in the T-zone, you know, shooting somebody in the head, so to speak. So I guess my point of the bullseye is that if I'm aiming literally for like the upper bridge of the nose in between the eye sockets or whatever, it's not going to do me a great job if my grouping is 6 inches to the right and it's a tight group, as much as if I'm bullseye on the shot where I'm aiming. Nobody understands what I'm trying to say.
well, I get what you're saying, but I don't know. I mean, guess if you're saying, okay, I'm going to go to the range and I'm either going to like shoot a bunch and then look at my groups and see if it's good or not, or I'm going to sit there and take my time and try and get as close to the bullseye as possible. You know, which are your efforts more important as? Obviously, you want a tight group right on the bullseye, but if you're only focusing on one or the other,
well, what if you have a tight group and it's in the gut or whatever? What if you have a tight group and it's missing the actual target? But man, that I tell you what, I wasn't on the silhouette, but my tight grouping is a dime with 3 rounds or whatever. Like, so if you're not accurate with your grouping, what is the point?
Hold on. So, okay. So I'm going to say I consider the factor between the two, bullseye or shot grouping, time. So bullseye to me means spending some time to get an effective, accurate shot, where grouping is getting that good enough fast as possible. And grouping is of course important to put it where you want it, but grouping doesn't mean a group like when you're marksmanship shooting where you get a little clover leaf is your goal. Grouping for like CCW type shooting is more like an apple or a fist. And yeah, you want to be able to put that on where you want it, obviously. But the idea is that you can, with some limited time, put 5 or 3 or 4 or whatever in a group the size of your fist where you want it, as opposed to 3 bullet holes, you know, making a ragged hole, or 3 shots making a ragged hole, which is, you know, doable, but it takes time. So I would say for training in general, I think I personally just spend less time worrying about getting a whole bunch of ragged holes and then more time draw and shoot, draw and shoot, draw and shoot. I want to see where that grouping is.
Well, now, how does that work when there's somebody standing in between you and the bad guy?
You're right. And when there's somebody standing between you and the bad guy, number one, that's a theoretical situation. If it happens,
well, all of it is.
No, not all of it, because in real life you have to quickly return fire or take a shot to save your life or someone's life. I'm not aware of very many times in real life where somebody's holding somebody else hostage and it's up to you to solve that at the moment with a headshot to the bad guy behind your significant other. I mean, I guess it's right. It's not invalid to be prepared for such a thing. But when you're talking about that particular situation, to answer your question or address it specifically, that's going to be, I'm assuming, some sort of negotiation where the guy's telling you about what you need to be doing. And that's where you get your time to do your marksmanship shot in his eyeball or whatever, T-zone, like you're saying. But
so
again,
is there no way that the bullseye shot can be a snapshot or fast? Like, is that impossible? I'm asking. I'm not accusing. I'm asking.
Yes, I believe so. Because what do you need to have proper marksmanship? You need to have consistent
sight alignment and all that.
Consistent hold on the firearm, points of contact that may remain consistent, and that usually requires some amount of adjusting and effort, usually sandbags or some other kind of thing to brace on. And then your breath control, and then your depending on how you shoot, if you're moving crosshairs and watching them back and forth across the point of aim, or if you're trying to hold it dead on and control your breathing so the gun don't move, but whatever, you're going to do some kind of concentrated effort to make sure that everything is perfect, so that your sight alignment's perfect, and your wind and all your windage, where you're going to be hitting on target versus where you're aiming versus where you're going to hit. All that stuff comes into play. All that takes time, and that's where I say, if you're going out to marksmanship shoot, that's a great skill, and that's what builds your fundamentals. But then you go from perfect to good enough, and you go as fast as you possibly can until your grouping is within the size of a fist on the target where you want it. That's okay. That's the way I'd see them differently.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I think grouping, unless it's the zombie apocalypse, and then you want to be able to hit that headshot, because otherwise it's not going to stop the zombie. So yeah, bullseye for the zombie apocalypse, but grouping for just general real life. The rest of it.
And I agree with the grouping to a level, but everybody's discounting the fact that if you're not on the paper and your grouping is tight, or if you're shooting someone in the stomach, that does not end the threat. Even if you shoot them 5 times in the stomach, that still does not necessarily stop the person from being able to either retaliate or continue on whatever it was that they were doing.
Well, that's why we're not sacrificing
number of grouping 1 or 2 shots.
Go ahead, Dano.
I was just going to say that's why there is no magic numbers. You shoot until the threat is gone. So whether it's 5 shots in the gut, if the threat is still active, you continue to shoot. So you reload and continue to shoot until the threat is gone.
And when we're talking grouping, I think the way I'm understanding what Z's saying is like when you put a new optic on a rifle and you take it out to the range and you aim dead center of your target, but you get a really nice group, 3 or 4 inches over to the side, and it's a great group. We're not talking about marksmanship grouping. We're talking grouping versus bullseye. And even though it's the same word, I think it's a different concept. It's the idea.
Well, I think you see what I was trying to say now. Actually, since you used that example right there, that's all I was trying to say. And that's why in my mind that bullseye was more important for the beginning. And it's like, because if you can get the more accurate shot to begin with, and I'm talking training, I'm not talking life example scenario, I'm talking training. Isn't it easier to work with the bullseye first and tighten the grouping from that, training wise?
No. It's, imagine if you went to like a driving school and they were going to teach you defensive driving tactics. They probably aren't going to start out with like basic, like, let's look around your car and here's how you start it and here's how your battery works. So I think it's that difference. You have the fundamental of the skill of marksmanship in order to be able to shoot groups, because if you just have if you're starting from absolute zero, you do have to start with marksmanship. You have to know how your gun works, but the goal would then be to, again, sacrifice perfection and allow more of the good enough side of it, so that when you're putting all those pieces into play at speed, you get a group again that's, again, apple fist size, where you want it on the target, if it's the chest or if it's the shoulder, if it's the neck or if it's the brain box or whatever. But if you go to most of the practical or defensive type of firearms classes, they're not going to care too much at all. You might shoot at a dot or something just to make sure your gun isn't wrong or something, like your sights are on, But after that, most of the time they're looking again in like a competition target. They're just looking for A zone. They're looking for stuff inside that
All right.
the softball or
Yeah.
something. They're looking for the hits inside of there, and they're very rarely going to score other than to see how many of your things were outliers. Like how often did you shoot outside of that A zone where it would be fairly effective?
Yeah, it's pretty much a given that your gun's already going to shoot to your aim. So, then we're just going from the difference of, do you practice to just shoot that bullseye, or do you, now that your gun is shooting, then you're just shooting a group. So you want to be able to shoot fairly rapidly. And
Well, how you're also saying about being outside the A zone or being outside all of that, that was my point about bullseye, because you're trying to be more accurate. I understand what you're saying about shot grouping for speed. I definitely got you on that, and I'll agree with you that will probably save your life more than a single or several accurate shots, I guess.
But we're talking about when fractions of a second matter.
Actually, we're talking about training. We're not even talking about real life scenarios.
And when you're training of a second matter, which is more easy to attain, that hole in a hole in a fraction of a second, right group, which is going to be much more effective and take much less time.
Well, how are your tight groups going to help when you are defending yourself against several attackers then?
Okay, well, we're talking about a different scenario then. Then you're shooting multiple targets at a time.
Right.
Now, if we're talking distance, then things would probably be different. If we're talking, long range, and the threat isn't imminent, now we're talking. There's more time on your end, so you can spend more time for that, and you're going to need to spend more time, as distance increases.
Yeah, with the most imminent threat, that's what comes first.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I think I'm looking at it as, okay, I'm going to go out training today. I got a box of ammo and a sheet of paper. Do I spend all afternoon just taking one at a time and trying to get the most perfect bullseye shot, or do I shoot a bunch of groups into the paper and know that, all right, if I shoot 5 times, they're all pretty close to each other, and then I can work on putting that group where I want it, versus, G kind of touched on it, if you want to come home with a piece of paper that has, a ragged hole in the middle, that's great, and you can feel really proud of yourself if you can do that. That's awesome. But if it took you an hour to shoot that whole box into that same hole, it's not as good as if you come back with a sheet of paper where all the holes are in the A zone and it took you 10 minutes to shoot the whole box.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, why does it have to be mutually exclusive that you can't be going fast if you're still accurate enough to be shooting in the bullseye? That's because technically most bullseyes are about the size of a 50-cent piece or whatever, correct? For the most part.
Target, but yeah, something not much bigger.
Right. Okay. So I guess what I'm getting at is, to shoot a tight group in the bullseye is going to be grouping as well, but then you also have the added importance of accuracy, right? So I don't understand necessarily why you can't technically have both.
Well, we all strive to achieve.
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal.
Perfection.
Well, no, I don't even mean perfection. Because I can some days, and I can't say that I always can do this, but there are some days where I am shooting bullseyes, and I'm not waiting, like everybody's inferring that it's going to take a minute and a half a setup and waiting for the breathing and stuff like that. I guess I'm trying to get a good grouping, but I'm trying to get a good grouping in the bullseye, and I guess that's where that's where I'm tripping up here.
Of experience. I mean, for myself, it takes a lot more time to get a 1-inch group than it does a 3.5-inch group for myself. A lot less time to get that 3.5-inch group, and that's what I'm looking for.
Well, some people can take the time to have that happen, and then there's also, let's all be real, that there are going to be some people out there, and I'm not even talking about myself here, that there are some people out there that can go fast and be accurate.
Yeah, but I think part of what you're tripping over, Z, is that we're going on like when we're saying grouping, we're not saying it doesn't matter where the group is. We're saying that the group, you want your grouping to be the more or less the center of the target.
I like what G's got up there right now.
Yeah.
So let's talk about.
I love the dot torture.
Yeah, it's an excellent drill used by a lot of different instructors and whatnot. You can print it out on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and take it to the range. It doesn't bother any NRA rules or anything. And if we can't see it great on this thing, but there's these 9-10 dots, and it's 50 rounds of ammo. You're going to shoot. Crap! I wish I had one that I could read. I'm going to look for one I can read. Basically, you're going to do a different set of tasks in each of these dots. And
so to me, G, that's 10 bullseyes is what that is to me.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
As opposed to like number 6 being the one bullseye, to me that's 10 bullseyes right there.
So
because I'm trying.
I hear you. They are, I guess you'd call it a target or a bullseye. But let's look at what the tasks are. So again, you're going to shoot 50 rounds, 1 box of handgun ammo at the range with an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Your first 5 shots are going to be slow fire into the 1. Next, you're going to draw and shoot 1 time. You're going to draw 5 times basically. So draw and shoot a single shot into number 2. Now you're going to draw on 3 and on 4. So now you're going to do the same thing, except instead of slow fire at 1, you're going to slow fire and then acquire another target right next to each other, but you're purposely readjusting your target. You're going to do that 4 times. Then you go down 5 shots from your strong hand. That's just giving you a one-handed exercise. Now you're going to draw 2. So you're going to draw and shoot 2 into 6 and shoot 2 into 6 and then 2 into 7. Do that 4 times. And you get 2 shots and follow-up shots and then a new target. Then you're going to use your weak hand. That's kind of out of the, it's a different task. And then you're going to draw and then 1 on 9 and speed reload and 1 on 10, again, to give yourself some practice with reloading your gun. But that's the concept of the drill. Now we'll go back and see some of these where people have shot them and see when you're slow, yeah, you get a nice ragged hole. That's what we're all looking for when we've got all the time in the world, is to have consistency. And then as you see some of these where you're doing something in between, it spreads a bit. So that's what we're talking grouping. We want the grouping right where it's supposed to be, but we're talking this is a grouping as opposed to the ragged hole.
I gotcha. And I totally agree with that.
Factory. And honestly, if you're shooting a mammal, you don't want this. This is putting a wasted bullet, and especially a 9mm. You got 100 of them in there. You're going to keep blowing holes through the hole. That doesn't help you. But having these 2 shots is 2 cavities. That's more what Dan was saying. You want this threat to stop. The spread inside of that little bull is going to give you that better odds, I guess. So what we're trying to say is, instead of taking the time to do this, we strive to be able to throw our group. If it gets a little sloppy, and this is an excellent target, by the way, and most people don't get any out of the, this guy barely got 1 out. So it's like raise. But this is an excellent group. Now, this one isn't necessarily timed. It's just to the, the shooter's preference. It's not like there's a timer going. Some people incorporate a timer, but, I guess people say if that's necessary or not. But
well, some might be doing it for stress, or let's say a little friendly competition between you and somebody else that might be at the range at the same time.
Perfect.
We could also do on video. What do you call it? It's not a postage stamp. What's it called? Postage match. Post match. What's it called?
Where everybody shoots and then sends in their results.
Yeah.
Right. Postal match. Postal match.
Postal match. Thank you. Because, we got a couple of people out there saying we do need another gun channels challenge. I definitely agree with that. We were actually talking about a few things that might be coming through. There's definitely going to be some potential additions to Daily Gun Show in the future.
Target drill of the day.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Ooh. And here's the thing, like with that specific one, G, like I can do it here, but I can't do it here. Well, I can't do it exactly that way because they don't allow for single hand, and they definitely don't allow for draw. But I could go from low ready You know what I'm saying? And
Sometimes you can just leave it on the table or whatever you're shooting bench, and then pick it up and shoot, and pick it up.
Right.
And shoot. Yeah, and then practice your draw at home. All you
right.
want. Yeah. And now the one-handed thing, that's annoying, but you could change.
Well, it's the silly NRA rules that we got going here in particular. But yeah, I hear you.
Well, you could easily just go to a left-handed draw for that one, and then or left-handed shoot. Instead of
shoot left-handed just with both hands though, because that's challenging even in itself.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I guess again, for the respect of the show schedule here, I think we can move on. I don't know. Did we solve this one?
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like we solved it. We changed Z's mind. That's the goal of the show every day.
That's true.
I don't know that you did, but I definitely see where you were all coming from.
We feel like we changed your mind. So
we feel like we've helped you and straightened you out when you're married.
Yeah, and you know how important feelings are these days.
Well, I think we got you over the mental block of like we're talking, we're happy with the group, but it's 5 miles away, but it's a good group. That's not what we were saying when we were saying grouping's important.
Yeah, I don't want to cap. Although that might be effective.
I was going to say, except that
Well,
probably would work
for the IRA quite well.
And to answer Tony's question out there, yes, at the range that at the range I am at, yes, I cannot do the one hand. Now, if somebody is missing a hand, yes, of course, I believe they do allow for that with guidance and assistance. I'm pretty sure.
But they can only shoot 9mm for safety.
Yep, I would imagine.
All right, so I'm
pound sign 9mm matters.
With that, I'm going to suggest we move on to maybe the movie of the day.
Okay.
I'm good.
Works. So we try to mention a movie every day that you might not have seen in a while, or if you're a youngin, movie you ain't seen yet. And today it's the movie Shooter with Mark.
Oh yeah, this movie was all about groupings, gentlemen, wasn't it?
This is a sniper, distance and time. He had all of it he needed. Yes, you're right.
So what was he training for? Anyway, I'm done. I'm totally joking here. I'm just trying to. Anyway. Yeah, much better than The Happening. It did have Mark Wahlberg in it, Marky Mark.
Wait, The Happening. What is that?
That was the one on Matt's chat that was voted one of the worst movies of all time.
Oh, okay. It's not the best movie of all time, though. There's some weird stuff in it.
Yeah,
but it is interesting, I guess.
I liked it.
It's like, what do you call it? Blockbuster type of movie, right? It's not like made for nerds, gun nerds about gun stuff like a Wick or something.
I would be inclined to agree with you, but I haven't hung out with that many Marine snipers.
Well, they tried to give the impression of like that knowledge, and I mean there was some stuff in there, but
definitely
the whole like
my guns.
No, he takes the firing pins out, replaces them with firing pins that are just shaved off enough.
Shaved off enough, yeah.
So that was a little weird, but I was thinking.
If you didn't know, you would think that was like, that's like really special gun tech. Like that's neat.
Well, like, does anybody? What was the name of the one? Jarhead? Isn't that where he was an actual? That was from real life. That was Swafford or whatever, where he was a Marine sniper in the first Kuwait, Iraq, Persian Gulf War, whereas this one was, a decade later or something like that, and it was a movie as opposed to a movie based on a real life person. So, if we're talking about nerding out on gun stuff or whatever, I don't even really know that Jarhead went too deep into the nerd stuff of Marine Sniper.
Oh, it had nothing to do with the guns. That was all about the boredom of war.
That's what I got from that one.
But I like how you keep trying to throw in bonus movies.
Well, whatever.
I have enough trouble like keeping up with like one movie of the day, and you're listing like 20 of them. And I actually saw Shooter, and I enjoyed it. I agree with that. It wasn't, like it's not an instruction manual on how to be a sniper. Like if you do everything he does,
absolutely,
you're not going to be a good sniper just because of it. But it was an interesting plot, and it had some,
he had some good shots,
government agency type secret stuff. And I mean, I don't really want to give the whole thing away, I guess, if people haven't seen it. But I thought it was a good movie.
It was such a great movie 10 years ago that they've now made a television show about it that got renewed for a second season.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
On primetime or cable?
Man, I think it's USA.
Okay. I didn't like the part where he goes with a turkey baster and like salt and something, and he tries to somehow give himself an IV with a turkey baster's and needle or something weird in the bathroom. I didn't. That part was weird.
Yeah,
But,
he makes his own saline solution.
I mean, I guess what they're trying to say is he's
resourceful.
He's a highly resourceful, efficient individual. Rugged.
Been a little bit more less trying to be in detail, so that was just it was annoying. And then some of the gun stuff was just weird. Like,
it was a bit
it was
strange.
distracting, I guess. But otherwise, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to give it 1 thumbs up. How about you guys?
Yeah, I'll give it 1 thumbs up. It was entertainment.
Let's hear what Smeggy got to say about it. You give it 1 thumb up, you give it 2 thumb up. What do you give it, Smeggy?
I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up because, I mean, it's a movie I watched from beginning to end and held my interest, and I don't know, maybe I'll a little more forgiving on some of the weird stuff. I'm with you. I rolled my eyes a couple of times, but not enough to like completely take me out of the plot where I'm like throwing my popcorn across the room. I was just oh, come on, that's dumb. And that was about it. And then I continued on, and I just, disbelief or what do they say that, right? The suspension of belief. Like, disbelief. Okay, disbelief, yeah, whatever. Me no talk good. It's okay. I didn't charge my batteries up very well yesterday, seeing as I haven't had power for a while. But yeah, I liked it.
Do you have power again?
I do have power now, yes. I was lucky enough as I was coming home from work, there were 3 trucks at the end of my street. And I was like, hell yeah, I think I'm actually getting power back. But 800,000 homes without power. It's the worst power outage of the Metro Detroit area, like ever.
Wow.
At least it was summer or spring.
Yeah, because, like 28 degrees last night is springtime.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that spring for Detroit?
It's could be warmer. It's a little chilly.
Around the tire fires.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, is it okay to say shooter versus sniper? Or are we done giving
Sniper, the Tom Berenger movie?
Berenger in the 80s?
Oh, shit, man.
They're both like kind of good, and then they're both like there's enough stuff in it that you're like, dang it, like why'd they have to do that? Like it's just, not nerdy enough, but I'm gonna call them about equivalent, I think.
Yeah.
I liked Sniper better, but I think that Shooter may actually be a better story/movie. Because if you remember Sniper, let's just say it wasn't the best. It wasn't an Oscar-winning screenplay for Sniper.
No, I agree with you 100%.
Whereas there was a lot more going on in Shooter to make it an interesting story.
Yeah, no matter what they did in Shooter, it wasn't as weird as Sniper, which is dumb. It was a dumb movie, but it was a neater because it's in jungle, I guess. That's why I liked it. And it's just like, okay, he's really being a sniper, where this was more of a almost CSI or, I don't know, some like crime movie.
Yeah.
Not really sniper movie.
But I definitely liked Shooter. It was one of those movies, though, when it came out, like I refused to see it because it had Marky Mark in it. I'm like, it looks fucking stupid. And then over time, my resistance, I guess, failed. And I ended up watching it on TV. And I found it to be actually very entertaining, a decent story. There was just enough visual wows to, keep me interested. So I would actually give Shooter 2 thumbs up in the end.
And then DF2 dot on the Gun Channel side says they kill his dog, and I believe they did. I don't like movies where they do that.
Hope, see, neither's that dog. There was a whole on what you talk about, Willis. All right.
All right, so I guess that was the movie of the day. Like I say, we try to mention a movie that you might not have seen in a while. So if you have some ideas, we've got movies out for the next few weeks, but we'll be scheduling our shows for the next month over on Saturday. And if you've got some suggestions for movies of the day, feel free to email us at dailygunshow@gmail.com anytime.
Yes, because audience participation around here is much appreciated.
All right, with that, I think we'll move on to the gun shop of the day.
Sounds great.
So we've got a couple of links here. I'll see if I can't bring them up so we can screen share them. And this one was recommended to us by Clay. And I'm opening it up here. We take a look at it. Another, I think, an interesting looking shop here. Old West Guns Room. And we got some.
Oh my.
Here.
Is that a haunted gun shop?
He said, located in El Cerrito, California, the Old West Gun Room is the best shop in the East Bay for buying and selling new, used, and antique firearms. The proprietor, Bob, is very knowledgeable and offers honest and fair deals. So it sounds like Clay wrote that himself. So I'm guessing this is someplace that he's been to. And he wrote here on his Instagram post that we're looking at, if you ever find yourself in the East Bay, be sure to stop by the Old West Gun Room and say hi to Bob. Yeah, this to me, I would definitely be jumping into that shop. There's got to be cool shit in there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Just from the looks of it.
Yeah. So
would you be disappointed though if it was like you walk in and it just like looks like a big box store, like lots of lights and everything's in order and all that? Like I expect to have to like move newspapers out of the way to find a gun. Like, oh, I got one of those somewhere. Hold on a second. Like that's what I want.
Yeah.
A bunch of dimwits just staring at the lights on break. Like you can't get any help from anybody.
Not necessarily that, but I mean, definitely, I would expect it to be, you know, like an old timey type gun shop.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect to run into a bunch of hipsters in there. Mind you, it is California, so.
Well, and you said East Bay, though. Isn't that close to San Francisco?
I think that's what that means.
San Francisco and Oakland, yeah. So there's potential.
Also, is it hip to go to Old Barns or something? Like,
well,
it looks like that.
Hey, they already wear the flannel and the boots and the, as they might say, dungarees, I guess.
It says the Old West Gun Room was founded in 1953 by George something. In 1963, George sold the business 10 years later to Dave Cumberland. Dave bought the stone building on whatever Boulevard, which was built in 1940s. He moved the store to its present location. So it looks like the store started up in 1953, changed owners 10 years later, and then another 6 years later, he bought this building and moved in. It was built in the 40s, and and then some other guy came along and bought the business in 1984. So Old West Bob continues to run the store and looks forward to sharing his more than 30 years of experience in the gun business.
Nice.
I'm a little scared to click on how to buy a gun in CA.
Yeah.
First, you have to get permission.
Because that's one hell of a cookie.
Then give up, so DNA sample, and then.
Well, we're kidding, but yeah, this is a gun shop that knows that it's difficult for people, probably new people, thinking about it, wondering what's up. Maybe somebody who's experienced but hasn't bought a gun in a while needs to know what the laws are. I'm assuming this is current, but we'll just briefly run through them. 10-day waiting period, uncalled for. A $25 background or $25 fee for the background check. You have to have a clean criminal and mental health record. You have to have a valid driver's license.
Well, that would discount Bob right out of the gate.
Yeah. Got to have a handgun safety certificate. You need to be a California resident. You'll need to prove your residency. So not only just a driver's license, but prove your residency.
That all sounds like what you got to do to buy a handgun in Hawaii so far.
When you pick up your firearm, you need to perform a safety demonstration with the gun you are purchasing in the store.
Wow.
Do you have to do a little routine? Do you have to have a little skit?
Then you got to wear a cute little hat and maybe some boots.
Before leaving the store, you must have a California-approved lockbox, safe, or trigger lock for your firearm, and then you will need to have your thumbprint taken.
Wow.
At the store?
Yes, this is done in the store.
At least we do it at the police station so they could actually just arrest you at that time.
I'm happy to know that there's no crime in California because after all that shit, people have to leave their thumbprint.
No. There's no gun crime in California from lawful gun owners, of course.
That's true. Okay. Well, that was interesting and definitely nice of them to write all that down on there for the people that are having to deal with all this infringement when they go to purchase. But
be honest, G, if you ever make it through East Bay, you're stopping there. Let's be real.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Won't be buying a gun, but
nobody's making it easy, but eventually I'll be in California.
Right. Yeah, no kidding. And some people are cracking up about the safety demo. does that literally mean like you don't look down the barrel while you're holding on to the grip on it or something? Like I just wonder I would like to see some videos of what some failed safety demos may have been in the state of California.
Well, I have to say, I feel like we brought this up in like a lobby or one of the other chats the other day. It was kind of recently. And I was pro giving a safety demo at a gun store, anti-requiring it. But, I mean, I think if you're a gun store, you're selling a gun, and just be like, hey, like, you know not to point it at stuff and keep your finger off the trigger and blah, blah, blah. And if the people are like, yeah, I'm good, then okay, cool. Like, I told you.
Or you ask them, hey, man, do you know how to operate this thing? I can definitely see that being cool and helpful.
Well, I don't know if you do that because, unfortunately, like then people's egos gets in their way sometimes. Like no one wants to feel stupid, and sometimes people are intimidated and stuff. But I don't know. I'd have no problem if someone started like running through real quick the 4 safety rules, and and be like, okay, cool, thanks for the refresher. Like I wouldn't take offense to it. I think it's dumb to be mandated anywhere, but
right. Let alone that's law, apparently. Right.
I found a video so we can see what it's like for people.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, I love her. Yeah, the other day was a world without women. This world would be a worse off place without this young woman. And she's taking her time.
Yeah,
I've seen her do this faster, actually.
And this is if you're going to have somebody else co-purchase the gun with you, co-sign the gun.
Actually, she does another video, dude, where it's just her and it's a different classroom. I'm pretty sure it's her. And if it's not her, that means there's 2 of them out there like that. And it's amazing.
Well, you do know that this is like Russian high school. This is like everybody in Russia does this. So
yeah, they're at like gym class right now or something.
Oh, yeah. There she is again, Z.
Yeah.
No, that's her other one. That's not the same one.
All Russian girls look the same as Z.
No.
I'm just surprised they can get the dust cover on so fast. I still fumble with that a little bit. Mine's like a little tight. I can't just like pop it in.
That's what she
There's
said.
a slot, man.
Yep.
Put the tab in the slot.
I know, but it's whatever.
You got to remember though, they've been disassembling and reassembling those things since grade 1. That's kind of a requirement in Russia.
But it's also a requirement in California, so that's at least a skill set that they're here.
Wow. What if that was a requirement? You can no longer purchase it until you can competently assemble and disassemble or field strip
You can
any
no longer,
firearm.
you can
Wow.
no longer vote for anti-gun laws unless you can take apart the gun.
Yeah.
That would be a good one.
Yeah, not in this country though, unfortunately.
Or even just, I would settle for a picture of a gun, like an AR or something, and point to all of the features that you're just about to ban. Like,
Yeah.
at least know where they are. And then they should have a shoulder thing that goes up just as a decoy. But anyways. So should we move on to our third topic?
Let's do it. So, well, no, let's go to, I guess we have to, that's all that's left. So I will stop doing what I'm doing over here and we will go over to, oh no, we can't. Right now we can't get to the main page. So
Yes.
Don't know what's going on with the calendar. We know that the NRA show, we know that the Tulsa gun show is coming up on April 1st. And then we know that the NRA show is coming up on April 28th or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So-
somewhere around there.
Those are the next things coming up that at least the gun challenge people might be participating in. As far as other events, if you guys know of any, otherwise we have a
Big
calendar over-
Sandy, Knob Creek, Blade
Yeah.
Show.
You're gonna take your camper?
Oh.
Yeah, might as well.
Oh shit! Bob's saying he's taking his camper to Big Sandy.
What?
So free floor room in Bob's camper to any gun challenge members. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Gotta sleep next to Charlie.
All right, so I guess that wraps up the gun events section there. But like I say, if there's a calendar over on Gun Channels, whenever you want, you can add items to the calendar. Normally on Thursdays, every other Thursday, we would have looked at those.
And can I reiterate real quick though with that too? I'd like to see more people just putting up your like local gun shows or whatever. So I did that the other day and ended up meeting up with someone because he's like, "Oh, that's this weekend. Yeah, I was thinking of going to that." So I mean, you don't know who you're helping by putting up. Oh, by the way, there's this gun show at like this one place.
Yeah, you're helping the gun show because who knows who, like you say, who's going to attend it. It's helping the gun show's website or their presence on the internet because you're giving them a valid link back to their stuff. And yeah, how neat would it be if every weekend there was a bunch of different gun shows listed up there, and that would get the conversations going about what loot you got at your gun shows. That'd be super fun. It's always
That's great and all, but you know what I'd like to see out there? I'd like to see hashtag Daily Gun Show like come up on Instagram every once in a while. I'd like to see Daily Gun Show get shared on Twitter every once in a while, maybe on Facebook. I'd like to see some share, like, subscribe, thumbs up, tell somebody about the show. I'd like to see some of that out there, a little more audience participation. We have a fantastic audience. You know, we definitely appreciate all they do with the show. We're just asking for a little bit of sharing. That's all we're asking. Any questions, comments, or ideas, you can definitely send them to dailygunshow@gmail.com.
always.
Healthy tip? Just the tip?
I just got to type something here real quick. Paste and then flip over here and let's see. So we try to think about the most important part of the gun being the part that pulls the trigger. So with that in mind, we have a healthy tip every day. Today is eating. Salad is a good project for the kids to watch plants grow, learn how to cook it, eat it, and then lesson in self-reliance and the food chain in general. So I think that's a great idea. I don't know where I found that one, but yeah. Teach your kids how to grow their own food and they will understand everything. Health and nature and probably some, what was I say, like they have a little extra and sell it or something, like a lemonade stand or
Quite possible. And responsibility and stuff.
Got a big ass bag of lemons here. I'm gonna see if I can get Bob out front with a lemonade stand. Make some money.
Not gonna happen. Get your kids some bunny rabbits.
Lemonade. Read the sign. Lemonade. Iced tea. I love that. Dude, I love that commercial. I love that commercial so much.
No, it's lemonade. What the hell's wrong with you people?
Oh, that iced tea one.
Yes. I've seen it a million times and it cracks me up just about every time still.
Which is good because it's one of those ones you don't get to click out of. So it's a good thing you enjoy it because when you don't enjoy it, it's frustrating.
Well, and he also says Slemonade. He didn't say lemonade. He says Slemonade. Read the sign. But anyway, off topic. Let's see. So what do we got left? We got Gun Channels today, which it's what? It's Thursday. So that is Yankee Today, maybe, if Gun Channel stops rebooting or whatever it's doing at this moment. Also, what is it? Weekly. What is
Gun News Weekly?
Gun News Weekly. Thank you.
Think of it this way: there's no Z in it, so it's easy to remember.
Gun News Weekly. And then also today's Thursday, so I imagine that there's the every Thursday AK-47 Guru chat.
There is later on today, and special guest Bob will be there, I think.
Yeah.
What? Is he going to talk about VZ 58s or whatever?
A strict schedule on the AK.
Good. You adhere to that schedule, my friend.
Although Czechoslovakia might be the schedule, I don't remember what it is.
Oh, snap. Let's see. I saw something about a mail call Monday on there. Is that what the gun of the day is?
Gun of the day, yeah, because we're doing books this week. So
okay.
Flip over to screen share again. Oops, as soon as I get rid of this. Kick a dog, and then...
Oh, don't kick that dog.
He's right up under me. He knows that drives me nuts. He's trying to get outside, so he's trying to do. He's trying to bug me to the point where I put him outside because he's bugging me. But it ain't working. So got this video going. and this is a book called Gun Rights War. I'm taking it out of the box or whatever, that little weird book bag thing from Amazon. And this is book written by the dad, right, Neil? Or was this written by the son? I guess we'll find out in a second when I get to the damn book. Gun Rights War, written by Chris Knox, about Neil Knox. So I think it's mostly what. Yes. You have this one too, Smiggy, right? This one is mostly like the articles from Shotgun News that Neil Knox did over the years, written by his son. And I don't know what you call that. Is it an anthology where you just put everybody's short stories together or whatever, the writings together?
Yeah, an anthology.
And so I got it because it's going to have some insight. He was part of the October revolt with the NRA, taking back the NRA from the FUDs. He was involved with the Gun Owners Protection Act. So there's definitely some interesting stuff in there. Unfortunately, the only negative I'll give it so far is that the table of contents and I guess the way that the information is distributed, either it's chronological or alphabetical, but it certainly isn't like by subject matter. So it's not like you can get all the NFA stuff or all the shotgun stuff. It's just sort of a random.
Now, G-Webs, I know this is sort of on a different. Okay, it's not about the book. What were those videos that he did? That I know we've shared them on the show before. I'm trying to remember. I think they're under my favorites or whatever. I'm just trying to remember what was the firearm or whatever. What was the actual subject of the video that Neil was doing? And it's like from the 80s. I think it was on VHS.
The AK-47 one?
They could be.
I think it was really just to show how people were concerned. They call it the truth about AK-47 firepower, but it's about people being concerned about the evil guns or the black guns or the assault rifles being so much more deadly. He basically did this video back in, did it say there?
Dude, it's like 81 or 83 or 85. It's like.
Yeah, this is a, you can tell it's a VHS or something, maybe even, probably VHS. Anyway, he goes out to a field somewhere and he just demonstrates it. And what do they say? A picture's worth 1,000 words and a video's worth 1,000 pictures. So by basically taking that 7.62 by 39, he shoots a watermelon here in a minute. You get to see that and you go, wow, look what it did to that watermelon. It knocked it over and it blew it up and stuff. And then he takes this innocuous looking hunting rifle that everybody's okay with because it doesn't look dangerous or menacing or anything. I guess a Model 100 Winchester. And of course, you pick that one because it's mechanically very similar, I suppose. And then when you shoot the,
it's gonna obliterate that watermelon.
Oh, it looks a little.
It's gonna.
I think excellent visual, right? I mean, no doubt about it. People have to understand that there's more kinetic energy coming out of that thing, even if they don't know nothing about physics, which most of those people probably don't, right? So then he takes a 30 at that same watermelon sitting on the bench there, not harming anybody. Oh, just splatters it. It's gone.
What watermelon?
Like there's a watermelon, and then a 30-30 meets it, and now there's no more watermelon. And that's a lever action gun that the Cowboys used, for crying out loud. So yeah, and that's probably in 1873 or something. So that's freaking. Even when he was making this was over 100 years old. And then he also demonstrates how fast you can empty the 7 shots coming out of that thing. Now he's taking a bolt action 30-06, just vaporizing it even more so. And what is this? A Mac 10. I forgot about this one. What does he do with this?
Yeah. This puts a little smile on my face.
Extension magazine on it. Will shoot 30 rounds without reloading. Ugly gun, but it shoots exactly the same cartridge that this gun does. Real pretty. Browning high power. Been around since 1935. It shoots the same 9mm cartridge. Has exactly the same power. Now, I can show you. Well, I'll shoot the Mac 10. It's harder to control by far than this gun is, but I'll show you what it does on the watermelons.
He ought to just throw that Browning in the dirt.
He does. See how he drops it?
We talked about how many shots you can get off with that Mac 10, 30 shots. I showed you this little Browning. The Browning is 14 shots. You drop a magazine out and shove another magazine into it, and you've got another round going. You've got the rest of those 30 shots. This is a 12-gauge Browning auto.
So yeah, Neil Knox is definitely instrumental in the gun advocacy forum, and the book that we're talking about today is the Gun Right. What is it?
What was it? Gun Right something. Gun right war.
Yeah, the gun rights war. So the war against gun rights, you could say. But anyway, it's a group of, he wrote for Shotgun News, the periodical, for a long, long time, and it's a group of his articles over the years put together by his son. I think there's probably some insight from his son as well, because his son worked with him a lot. He's been a guest. The son's been a guest of the show. He talked about the book a bit. And this week for our gun of the day, we've just been featuring some of the gun books, and this one was, like I said, I ordered it on Amazon after we talked to Neil. So, or I mean, after we talked to Jeff.
Yeah.
And I still haven't read it. Like I say, I have it, and I really want to read some of those pieces, but I just haven't actually sat down. Pretty sure Smeggy has one.
I do not.
I know Raphael has one, and I thought somebody else had one. Must have been Flippy then.
It sounds like something I'd be interested in, but I don't know that I ever knew of it, so I certainly will be looking for it now.
Well, I would recommend Amazon. I looked around for it, and I mean, unless you happen to find it at a gun show or something, probably even cheaper, really. But I didn't find it at like regular stores and stuff. I just sourced it on Amazon after getting frustrated looking for it.
You probably get it at what's Mr. Knox's website that I always have a hard time remembering. It's the Firearms Policy Coalition.
No, the Firearms Policy Coalition is the one out of Florida. Theirs is the Firearms Policy. Dang it.
Yeah, it was in the beginning of that video, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was actually on that video. So let me go back to that.
Just trying to give a little shout out to Mr. Knox. He's been on a couple of the shows. He's a great guy. He does a lot. He does a lot of stuff that we don't even know he's out there trying to do, helping us. So
just get rid of the policy. So it's Firearms Coalition.
Firearms Coalition. Thank you.
All right. So this will take us into, that was the gun channels today and the gun of the day. And we got a history today. So today is unfortunately the anniversary of a death of somebody in the firearms community.
Mr. Galil?
Yep. I don't know how to say that. Is this a Galil?
Oh, I just call it Israel.
Okay. And he was born in 23. Unfortunately died in 1995. So it's one of those people that we could have met. I like to blame my parents for not letting me meet these people when I was a kid, but he was around when I was around, so that's kind of neat. So the guy who invented the Galil, but he also worked on the Uzi. That's kind of neat that those people, have just recently started to pass. So this kind of, sometimes you think of these things as they're iconic, right? You think of them as being around forever, but they really haven't. So these things are pretty neat.
And let's be real, that right there, that's the SPR, right?
Well, in this country it would be, but to them it's just
just normal. Yeah, no, that looks like an excellent little package going on right there.
Yep, they're AKs. They're a variant of the finish, but yeah, definitely a unique look and hold a chunk of history that is unique to the AKs. Really, one of the few AKs used by the good guys, quote unquote.
Yep. All right, what is that? What do we have left, gentlemen? Is that everything? I mean, that looks close to it.
Wrapping it up. So we have had some issues on the gun channel side. I'm working on that, kind of distracted while we're talking here. So we want to appreciate everybody who's been joining us live. We still had normal, or kind of a full normal day. So we ask occasionally for people to help us out by if you know somebody who might be interested in the show, either live or listening to it as a podcast or watching it on YouTube. Or over on gun channels. We appreciate that people have obviously been doing that. So we see more people showing up. It does give that makes the chats kind of hustle more. So we see more comments and we have more stuff to talk about. And we do appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
But did they all give us thumbs up? I'd like to take this time.
What if they don't have a thumb?
Who has not?
What if they only have one thumb?
13 out of 27. So we do appreciate it. 50% is better than 0. So thank you for that. And we do appreciate the people that take the time to do that, either now or in the future, because it lets us know where you are, for one. If we see the thumbs up coming over here and not on iTunes, it tells us something. Like I say, it helps that's how this platforms work. When stuff gets attention, it gets recommended. And when it gets recommended, occasionally somebody's going to listen to it. Hopefully they like what we're doing. And that's how it works. So we appreciate that. With that, though, I think we can end episode 264. I knew this was going to be a good one, so hopefully everybody agrees. We'll be back with episode 265 tomorrow. Alternative gun topics, talking about novelty guns and guns that are fun, but not necessarily practical. I don't know if Daniel will be able to deal with that. He likes practical guns. Then we'll have the gun biz with gun accessories, and we wrap up the week. We also have our daily stuff, so I'm looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. Oh, Bob's standing right here. That's why they're not saying anything. Bob, are you going to do your quote?
Don't have one today.
What?
He just doesn't even give a shit. He's standing here with his arms folded, like he's just being belligerent.
I was busy.
So he didn't do the gun of the day, because obviously that was your book. He didn't do the quote of the day.
I was busy.
He's still here. No, we did. We went out and compression test the van today. So nothing but not anything close to good news on that. Unfortunately, I'll probably have to... Anyway, not going anywhere in the van anytime soon.
Is it DOA?
That's what everybody who I've turned to in the past for mechanical advice is telling me. So
Okay. Well, let's see if I could find a... Let's see if I can find something here. Scrolling. Here we go. Abraham Lincoln. Mr. Honest Abe, Abraham Lincoln. America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves. I'd like to say thank you to everybody out there participating, everybody listening, everybody joining in the chat in whichever way that they can. You guys take it easy out there, and aloha.
The guys and gals of GunWebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching GunWebsites.com.
Thank you.